Hey y'all, welcome to Paige's Perspective, where I help you find your inner strength to cope with life. This week's episode is going to be a bit different than what I typically discuss. Like usually my episodes are growth oriented, and I think this one is growth oriented because I am going to hopefully validate you, educate you, and help empower you. But it's on a topic that usually Matt and I would discuss because I'm going to talk a lot about addiction and manipulative phrases that some addicts may use within their relationships. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the disease model. So yeah, it's going to be different than usual, but hear me out. I think that it's going to be great for you guys, no matter where you are within your relationship. Either you're in it with an active addiction, an active addict, or you're in recovery together, or even if you've left the relationship, this episode is going to be for you. So a lot of the times, the behaviors from an addict within these relationships are rarely called what it truly is, and that's abuse. You know, we'll acknowledge the damage done, the pain inflicted, the betrayal. And I'm not just talking about infidelity. Betrayal is, happens when somebody lies to you chronically. It can do something to a person. But we hesitate to label these actions as outright abusive. Why? I mean, society excuses addiction as a disease as if that makes the impact on their partner, any less destructive. It's also extremely difficult for a spouse to admit that they have an abusive partner. Guys, I get it. This is not an easy discussion. However, it can really help set some people free and wake up. Like, I didn't want to call my husband abusive. It didn't feel good. It felt wrong, but it was reality. And if we don't wake up to reality, we can be stuck in denial for a really, really, really long time, which can be harming to us, to our children, and even generations, going behind us. So if you're in a relationship with a recovering addict, these are things that I hope that your partner has been able to give you space to heal from. That's part of the true recovery, and it's necessary to rebuild a marriage and rebuild each other. Like, you have to have space for this. But let's get back to the use of excusing addiction as a disease. We don't do this with other diseases. If someone with cancer lashed out, emotionally tormented their spouse, or engaged in reckless behaviors that endangered their family, no one would say, well, they're sick, you have to understand. Yet when an addict repeatedly lies, gaslights, steals, emotionally neglects their partner, and manipulates them into submission, we're told they don't mean it, it's the addiction talking. But addiction doesn't talk. People talk. And when those people manipulate and guilt trip their spouses into staying in a dysfunctional relationship where their needs, safety, and boundaries don't matter, that is emotional abuse. And I know that's hard, and I know it feels like a strong word for a lot of people, but we need to be calling it what it is. So I'm going to go through some common manipulative phrases that addicts may use in a marriage, because I see these thrown on our page all the time. I see them thrown on our social media accounts all the time. And obviously, I can't respond to everybody, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on these. The weaponizing of vows in sickness and in health. When somebody tells you, oh, well, you made vows in sickness and in health, what they mean is that my addiction is a sickness, so you're supposed to put up with whatever I do. In reality, marriage vows don't mean tolerating unchecked destructive behavior. If someone has cancer, they still go to the doctor. They don't refuse treatment and expect their spouse to act like everything's fine. Addiction requires active recovery, not blind loyalty. It's treatable. And there are so many resources out there to get help. They just have to choose to do it. I also see spouses using this term a lot as well as a reason not to, leave and get to safety. Guys, this is not what this vow means. And from what I can tell, your partner isn't holding their end of the deal. I see this term skewed way too much. So when is being abusive a sickness? I mean, obviously there is something going on, but that doesn't mean we tolerate it or stick by it no matter what. That's just outright dangerous for our safety and for our kids and their future. Another phrase is going to be unconditional love, means accepting me as I am. And you've seen the unconditional love being thrown out a lot. Hell, I used to use this term. But What they mean is that if you loved me, you wouldn't ask me to change. If you loved me, you'll love all parts of me. Reality is love is not unconditional. It's conditional unless it's with your children. Healthy relationships have standards. Love does not mean tolerating behavior that violates your dignity and your safety. We need to normalize this. Sure, we all have flaws. We all fuck up occasionally, but abuse? I'm supposed to love someone unconditionally when they make me feel unsafe? No. That is not healthy. This always gets to me. All right, the next one is you knew me when we got married. I'm sure you've heard that one before. What they mean is you signed up for this, so you have no right to be upset now. Reality is no one can predict how deep addiction will spiral or how much damage will be done. And their past struggles doesn't give them a lifelong free pass to treat their partner however they want. Addiction is progressive, and most of the time we don't even know what we're getting into because addicts are really good at what they do. Also, we're meant to grow. Some of us got together young, and yeah, it was normal to party. But one of us grew up and out of it, while the other one chose to keep going with the partying lifestyle. We typically marry going into thinking, we have the same values and we will grow together, not just live together. Growth, guys. Grow. Change together. That's what that means. And we feel like we're going to be safe. We feel as though we will eventually have an equal-ish partner. All these things. So to say that you knew me when we got married is bullshit. This is an excuse to stay stuck. If I ever said this to my husband, and I really do, I hope he would look at me and say, bye, because that means that I'm not willing to grow with him. And if his values are growth oriented then I just wouldn't be for him. That would be such a toxic outlook on me as a person. If I thought, you knew me when we got married. No, that's not growth oriented. We're supposed to change. We are meant to grow up. We're meant to be different people than we were a year ago. All right. And another phrase is going to be, I'm trying, recovery takes time. Yeah. And trying isn't a free pass to keep hurting someone while they wait for you to figure it out. Reality is, trying isn't the same as actually doing the work. If they're justifying continued behaviors with I'm trying, but they're still, lying, relapsing, refusing therapy or meetings, making excuses, blaming the outside factors like work and stress, or avoiding any accountability, that's a red flag. And look, maybe they are genuinely trying. Maybe they're going to meetings, reading books, even making some progress, but trying doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't stop the fact that lying and the broken trust and the emotional neglect happened. And it sure as hell doesn't mean that, their partner is obligated to sit there suffering until they finally get it right. Recovery does take time. We've talked about that. I had a lot of patience in Matt's recovery, but he also did a lot of work. He showed me from the get-go that he was serious about change. But that doesn't mean that we have to keep getting hurt in the process of their recovery. Their effort doesn't erase the impact. Intentions don't rebuild trust. And progress that still comes with cycles of poor behavior, it might be progress for them, but it's still pain for you. And we need to acknowledge that. So the real question isn't whether they're trying. It's whether they're trying is enough for you. And if it's not, that's okay. If it is enough for you, that's okay too. The next one, you're just being controlling. Woo, that one's a very common one. But what they mean is that you having boundaries makes me uncomfortable, so I'm going to frame it as you being unreasonable. It's deflection. But boundaries, in reality, boundaries are not control. They're a response to their out of control behavior that you need in order to protect yourself and your kids and your values and your standards. Healthy relationships have boundaries, and those boundaries are respected. When you stand up for yourself, take action, do what you need to do to protect yourself, that is not controlling. The thing is, you have to be willing to stand up for yourself when the boundaries are not respected. And that means taking action, not just verbalizing what you will and will not tolerate. It's up to us to recognize when our values and our standards are being stomped on and work on building ourselves up to remove ourselves from a situation that isn't safe. They can either take the challenge or not. If not, this is where your part comes in. This is where you decide if this relationship is for you. For me, I didn't want to be in a relationship where my spouse didn't respect my values. So yeah, I challenged him. He took it though. He chose to take on that challenge before I was completely done. A marriage is two people. It's so gross to tell our partners, you're just being controlling. Sir, I'm just asking you to grow with me. I'm just asking you to step up and grow like a human. I'm asking you to evolve, to be a better partner and parent, and hell, just a better person for yourself. It's not controlling to ask our partners to step up, so miss me with that one. The next phrase is going to be, I do so much for you. So what they mean is I washed a dish once, so you should overlook my destructive behavior. Or I provide for us financially. Or I made sure the kids were in bed. In reality, these are basic adult responsibilities. And that does not erase the emotional neglect, the lying, the betrayal. This is such a cop-out. And I will honestly say that Matt never did this to me. He may have been unavailable a lot during our kids' lives when they were really little because he was in recovery and he worked to provide for us, but he never used this line. He never gave me hell for being behind a house, on household duties, or he never threw out the I provide for you bullshit line. I was harder on myself than he was because I had my own standards and I felt guilty for not being the perfect stay-at-home mom. And that was on me, though. I'm grateful he didn't go this route because that would have really fucked with my head. So if you have a partner who throws this line out, that's not okay. You deserve someone who is able to see you and hear you, not someone who makes it all about them and what they do. They may do some basic adult responsibilities, but that doesn't give them a free pass to be neglectful or lie or disrespect your boundaries. The last phrase is nobody else would put up with you. And what they mean is that you're lucky I'm with you, so you better not leave me. The reality of this phrase is that it is designed to lower your self-worth so that you feel dependent on them. And this one is heartbreaking. If Matt would have said this to me, it would have made me spiral badly. You know that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me? Damn, I used to preach that. Yep, because it was something I was raised on. And I truly tried to harden myself to believe it so that I wouldn't take on someone else's words. And it can be helpful in different situations, in different areas of our lives. Don't get me wrong. However, when we're discussing our most intimate partner, this is awful advice. Words do hurt when it's from someone you were meant to trust and feel safe with. We take them to heart because we love this person. Why wouldn't we take it personally? I know some programs will tell you not to take things personally from an addict, but it is personal. Again, this is not a stranger on the street. This is your partner. How you are being treated is personal. And sure, they have their demons and they need to work through some tough shit, and saying it's not personal makes sense when it isn't a reflection of you. And that part's important, but their issues do not give them permission to treat us poorly. It is personal. So why no one calls addiction what it is, which is often abuse. When an addict manipulates, deceives, and emotionally torments their spouse, it doesn't matter if it's fueled by their addiction or the substance. It's still abuse. And yet in recovery spaces in society, we're taught to endlessly be patient, endlessly forgive, endlessly understand. We're told they're sick, be compassionate. It's not really them, it's the addiction. You can't be mad at them, it's a disease. You know what this does? This erases the spouse's experience. It forces us into a role of caretaker. And we are expected to bear the emotional, the financial, and psychological toll of the addict's choices. And if we finally reach our breaking point, we're made to feel like the bad person. Make it make sense. So addiction may be a disease, but abuse is still abuse, no matter the reason behind it. And this is why I'm always discussing behaviors over substances, because it doesn't matter what is behind or what's driving them to do what they do. It is still impacting you, and it is still impacting our children. And this is also why many spouses feel trapped. We're not just battling. They're not just battling the addiction. We're battling years of being manipulated into believing that your own suffering doesn't matter. And I believe that this is a very disempowering message for both the addict and the spouse, saying that it's their addiction is excusing the behavior. Why can't we tell them and ourselves, that, hey, you can change. There are resources to help treat your condition. That's a fucking gift. That means that we have the ability to make changes within ourselves instead of throwing, pity parties about how we're stuck because of a disease. I'm going to compare this to my depressive spiral I had many years ago for a second. I remember reading somewhere, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain and that's why you struggle. For a while, I used this as an excuse to stay depressed and super anxious. I'm like this because I have a chemical imbalance. How disempowering is that? I thought I was powerless, which is another bullshit term for many things in life, but that's another episode. What I didn't read until later on was that I can rewire my brain with new habits, and I don't have to be stuck with this chemical imbalance. I feel as society, we have made ourselves feel so powerless over so many things, and that's just not real. And frankly, it's dangerous. It takes fucking effort to change, and it's hard. I am not denying that, but it is possible. Sure, I have moments of anxiety and feeling less than and uncomfortable feelings because I'm human and I'm not a damn robot. What I have now is balance and clarity and intentional habits. And I'm not powerless, and neither are you, and neither is the addict. We need to stop with this. So my final thoughts on this episode, call it what it is. Manipulation is manipulation. Emotional abuse is emotional abuse. Neglect is neglect. It's time to stop excusing it just because addiction is in the mix, because at the end of the day, addicts still make choices, and those choices have consequences. Ones their spouses have been paying for far too long. So it's up to us to make some changes within ourselves, build ourselves up, understand what our values are, figure out what we will and will not tolerate. These are the things that can help us make important decisions within our relationships and lives. If we have children, this is extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. We need to provide a safe environment for them so they can thrive. If you feel stuck, need some support, or have no idea who you are anymore, check out our Independently Strong course. We have helped so many find their voice again. It's a pretty empowering process, and you will connect with others who get you. So you can use the code Wheelie75 for a discount. Your wants and needs matter too. Your kids matter. I know it's difficult to see these things while you're still in it. No one wants to call their partner abusive. But within your instincts and in your heart that something isn't right within your relationship. You're not being heard, and that is not okay. For those who are in recovery with your partner, again, I hope you have been given space to heal and are able to work through these difficult things. It's possible if both people work towards growth individually and together. For those who are in recovery or trying to recover, this message is not meant to make you feel like shit, or shame you, or tell you you're a bad person. That's far from it. It's meant to bring awareness to how your actions really do impact those around you. It's also meant to let you know you aren't powerless and don't need to be stuck in the mindset of, I have a disease and can't help myself. Shift your perspective to, I got this. I know I'm better than this. My family needs me to step up. And more importantly, I need to step up for myself. I can choose to be a better version of me. So y'all, I'm rooting for all of you as you navigate all of these things. I know it's very, very difficult and it's very challenging. To those who have left their relationship, I support you. To those who have stayed and are trying to figure this shit out, I support you. And I will love you until you can love yourself enough to figure out what you feel is best for you. To those recovering together, I support you. That's all I have for this week. Until next time, I'm Paige. Bye.